Hello and welcome to Moose Meets, where I sit down with various protocols to explore their innovations and what sets them apart. And of course, we'll be digging for some exclusive alpha for you, so make sure to lean in and stay tuned to ensure you don't miss a thing. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Today I have Jun from Good Entry with me. He's the co-founder. Hello Jun, how are you?
Hey, what's up, guys? Great to be here.
So happy
Good
to
day.
have you on. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. So maybe we could start off with a little bit about yourself, right? Could you introduce yourself to the audience who's listening to this episode?
Yeah, hello, good people. So, my name is June. So on Discord, you might see me as Master Bean. I started my career at Consensus. I built a few protocols at DeFi for about 4 years now. Some of it not taken off. Most notably, I was part of Nuts, one of the founding team members. Um, was part of their fundraise, built their TVL, and yeah, I think part of that helped me understand derivatives and see that there's a really big gap in terms of how we scale Web3, right? One thing that we saw was that I left it last year. One thing I saw was that there's no market, private or public, for options um, or non-BTC or ETH, right? And this is critical because oftentimes we look at the CFI markets, TradeFi markets, equities, compared to derivatives. Derivatives is usually a much bigger factor of the equities market, but we don't have that in crypto yet. So, in the absence of TradeFi or CFI providing this utility, there is a massive opportunity for projects like Good Entry to enter the space. And as we saw, activity coming down, we saw a bright spot in the community, and that was in day trading. So Good Entry decided to launch our project in a very iterative manner, and we managed to provide. Our goal is to provide a spotlight trading experience with options as the background, providing support. So what I mean by that is, I'm sure many of you on the call, or I mean on this podcast, would have had the experience of being wiped out or liquidated by a god candle, or having your stack going from 100% to 90%, right, as a result of that. And when you think about it, you play poker or you trade. Usually, if you lose, you trade again. But at that time, your skill level is slightly the same, so you go on tilt because whether you make money or lose money, it tends to be more a factor of luck than skill. And more often than not, your stack dwindles more and more, and eventually you leave the space, right? That's a common story for many retail. And so Good Entry's thing is, instead of being wiped out by a god candle, let's say 5% or 10% damages, to your stack, right? You lose 0.04% per hour. No, it's much more manageable, right? To recover from that and trade again and learn and improve your skill. I think this is our hope, that we create a world where everyone can win. Maybe it's an idealistic world, but that is our good vibes that we want to provide. And yeah, we started seeing that it's actually possible, right? A lot of users in our early alpha product is getting that experience, so there has been that goal. So our background is really DeFi people seeing an opportunity in derivatives and attacking it in a very concentrated manner, and being focused on day trading for users, hoping that everyone can get a good outcome for themselves, whether or not they were right or wrong. It's still a good entry. So every entry is a good entry on.
Awesome, nice. You actually kind of just went ahead, man. I wanted to ask about you to explain like what Good Entry is, right, and like why you guys chose Perps. And I actually think that this is a very cool thing. I'm not sure. I don't think, in fact, that anyone has doing this protected Perps thing at the moment, right?
No, so I think you're totally right. I think what happened was, in the last year summer, there was massive interest to build V3 options, right? And many people in the space, if as long as you're playing in DeFi, you would have heard a lot of teams promising a Deribit competitor, order book models, right? My team tried to do that too before with other projects. But I think what we realized is that a lot of teams have not been able to ship. I wouldn't name names. I'm not here to throw shade at anyone, and I wouldn't name names, but many people have raised and not shipped for like a year, right? And that is because they have a different approach to development than us. And what I can talk about it is, you think about this, you can shift a little bit away from good entry and think about how to build a good project, right? A typical good project, dominant view in DeFi for good projects is, you build a giga-brain product and you wait, when you take like a year or 6 months to build it, and you wait for people to come in, and sometimes more often than not, you realize no one cares about your product. It's a very common situation. For the good entry method is, we don't believe we're giga brain. So the first approach is a giga brain approach. You think you know everything, you build first, and then you let people come. The second approach is, you don't think you're giga brain. That's what we feel. We're just excited about a certain thing. We ship it out first, and you try it. And based on, how we gauge whether we're getting right is actually when our Discord community is angry. So that's not funny, right? Because when
Right.
they're angry, it means that they're using it and they want something improved. So instead of having a 1 year roadmap, we don't have to do that. We just need to listen to what are people angry about and improve it. Because the more we focus on what they're the most angry thing, so to say, the closer we are to getting product market fit and more users. So that has been how good entry evolved. So take an example. We take a community driven roadmap, right? So how we do this is, when we first launch, we actually make users manage their own liquidity and shift between the ticks that we have. So the ticks are the Uniswap V3 positions, which our traders
Mm-hmm.
trade against. So at the start, you have to do it manually, but we realized quickly that a lot of users don't like that, even though the yield is very high. So we came up with the EzVault, which was just a front end improvement, but it was a tremendous improvement for the user experience, because now they can set and forget. The liquidity is auto managed for them. So, from there we got our TVL from zero. You look at DeFi Llama, it's actually a beautiful story, because it literally looks like a rocket, you know, moving up. And I think because we are very responsive to our users, they repay that to us in a very meaningful way, right? Because think about it, a team with a pseudonymous background, um, you shouldn't give TVL to them if you're a sane person, because they can be a rug pull, right? There have been many rug pulls. Even last week there was a rug pull. I can't name projects, but we all know who they are, and it's very easy to rug pull, right? So for us not to rug pull, I mean, $1 million, you rug pull it, you're retired for a year, right? It's pretty much, but we don't, right? So I think, like, to have the faith of this community, and many people like yourself coming on to give us podcasts, it's a very good vibe, and we want to continue that. So the next step in our development is focusing on building trust, which is going on to Code Arena. We have no VCs, right? But we've spent 90,000 of our own money to have a prize pool to get auditors to come in and compete to validate our code, and after that we can open source and scale our product, because top LPs can take a look at us and be more confident, right, that this thing is stable and they can come in. So that's really like how we think about product, how we think about good vibes, what good vibes mean. It's repaying, listening to our community, repaying their trust, and working every day to earn more of it. you know so
Yeah.
that's what good vibes are.
Nice. And I think it's a very unique take that you're actually happy that people are angry at you, and you take that as a good thing, right? And then you work towards resolving that, instead of like, oh no, people are angry at me, like, hey, how should I fix this, the kind of thing, right? So
Yeah,
I like the way that you guys are tackling this. And I think you mentioned a couple things here, like the no VC back. I think that's really nice that you guys are actually using your own money for this. I think it's a plus point for me in my own opinion. And also, since you mentioned about the easy vaults, right? I'm actually looking at it right now. You guys have four vaults at the moment, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, Arbitrum, and GMX. So, and also I noticed there's a max capacity. Is there any reason why?
so this is a good thing you ask. So we are now, we take a multi-layer security approach. So that means that we are doing multiple audits before we open source our code, with open source being the gold standard of DeFi, right? So caps actually, one thing is to provide FOMO, right, for people to come in to create that rocket effect, and attention. But the more important thing for us is actually, caps ensure that we don't grow TVL recklessly. when we are not 100% confident of our security levels, right? So keeping it low now is intentional. So this is like why we have caps, so as to ensure that we are in a safe range for TBL. 1 million is still reasonable. If something bad happens, okay, I think we all can live with it. But if you go like, if I lose 10 million or 20 million of user funds, when I myself am not satisfied with the security, then that's not cool, right? So, when we open source, I think that's when we will lift the caps, and that's when the project can really scale. So that is like our current thinking.
Awesome, really awesome. And looking at your docs, actually, I'm taking a look at the audit section. It says that Good Entry has been audited by Protofire and PackShield. So this
Yeah.
is so actually you guys have already
So,
2
so
audits
that's what
done.
we mean by multi-layer lah. So the
Mm-hmm.
first few times we'll do audits with others, and then we do Code Arena. Code Arena, we must emphasize that we're putting up $90,000 of our own money, right? To
Right,
invite auditors to challenge our code right now. It's happening live for the first week of August, right? Starting I think 1st August.
right.
90,000 of our own money US, to invite people to challenge us. I think this is not regular for most teams, because the teams that usually do it are like big teams like Arbitrum, Trader, I think if I'm not wrong, Trader Joe and such, Sushi, the big guns, right?
Mm-hmm.
With money. For us, even though we are using our own money, we see that this is a very good step to take to ensure that we can protect our community, and they can, if they see, the hope is they see our good work, they will give us the good things back, and we
Right.
all grow together.
Nice. So for those who know how to look at code, go take a look at Good Entry's code, right? You can even earn some money for yourself and help out Good Entry at the same time. And also on the note of your product, since we are talking about this, you have the protected perps page. I'm looking at it right now. I really like the UI actually. It's really clean. Like it's kind of, how should I say this? Like idiot proof, right? Like there's the button, all the buttons on the right. It's a deposit and withdraw, and then you're either long or short, and then you just select your size and activation price. And I really like that you guys actually added the payoff diagram at the bottom, so like users can just mouse over and you can kind of tell what is your maximum loss in percentage, and also the profits as well, right? So I think that is a really good effort there on the UI. I really like it personally.
Yeah, thank you. I
Yep.
think like one thing that we add the payoff diagrams, because we really want people to realize that you're not doing anything really ridiculous, right? Trading with risk management. Because a lot of times when a lot of retail join, right, trading for the first time, especially during COVID when day trading was at its peak, they didn't have any risk management measures, including myself, right? You don't know how to set a stop loss. You don't know how to buy options to hedge yourself. Um, going on reading about options is, you might read the concept on Investopedia, but you might not be sure how to do it, because going on Deribit is intimidating. But for us, we're building it into the trading experience. So, by making the payoff very clear, everyone knows, okay, this is what's going to happen. Perfect for you, right? Start the position, only 2 choices. The less becomes more, because now with one click, you buy a position where the payoff is linear. As long as you go correct, you earn. If it's wrong, you just lose that small funding rate, which is very acceptable. Um, and yeah, you don't have to do anything complex. You don't need to know what's a delta, gamma, all these complicated words. It's just one click and you're done. You're in action, right? So um, this is like the good dream that we have, and personally, we like to use it ourselves. So it's a pretty fun thing to do.
Awesome. And actually, I have a follow up question since you mentioned this. But before we get into that, do you want to kind of explain in simple terms what the activation price is? Because I see there are 2 activation
Yeah, sure,
prices,
sure.
right?
So I think activation price is our way to move. So we have this mission, right, where we don't want to use a single option word. So we don't want to hear any like thing like in the money, out the money, delta, all this. We don't want to hear any of that. So activation price is actually a new word that we came up with. What it just means is that once you cross that number, Like let's say the price for ETH, the activation price for ETH is 1,900. Once you cross 1,900, if you are longing, anything above 1,900 is your profit. So that's what it means. So if you're 1,800, if you enter at 1,832, anything above your entry 1,832 is profit.
Nice, and I really like that it keeps things
That's what it
really
means.
simple. Yeah, but that brings me to the second point, right? Where what if there are some of the traders who are a little bit more experienced and they want to have a bit more features like maybe like the stop loss or take profit levels, right? Or something that's a bit more sophisticated
Oh, I
that you
mean,
would try to
for now
eliminate.
they have
Uh-huh.
they can't do that lah. They can't do that on our platform yet. They can't do that yet. I
Right.
mean, with good entry by design, right, you don't need to have a stop loss because we are stop
True.
loss
Right.
by implementation. So we already risk management by default. But what happens in good entry is you have to look at the duration of your position. Because if you leverage up, so we have had a user lose up to 20% of their position because they leverage up 10x and they hold it for a very long time.
Ooh,
They lose. So the
just on
way you
funding
use
rates
good
alone.
entry, yeah. So the way you use good entry is you cannot hold it forever because you're not buying spot. You're paying for very expensive options at 300 to 400% APY. After a while
Mm-hmm.
it gets expensive. If you do leverage, it's also very expensive. So
Right.
uh, these things are no ones, right? Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. It's like sugar is wonderful. If you're like if you're doing an ultra marathon, right? Drinking Coca-Cola is very common among elite athletes. But imagine if you're drinking Coca-Cola every day, you're not exercising, you're gonna be a very fat guy, obese guy. Not fat shaming, but you just get very
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is like we are like Coca-Cola. We can be healthy for the right person.
Nice. But would you say that you guys are open to possibly having like this pro mode instead in future?
I think how, as we described, right, how we know what is going to be the most valuable things to build is when the most people scream for that thing. So, like for
Nice.
example, one of the biggest things that a lot of our users have asked is the ability to only deposit USDC for the protected perps. Right now, you can deposit both assets, but when you do ETH, your payout terms might not be the same because your ETH value changes. So to make it easier for people to understand the product, we are actually looking at how to stop deposits for ETH on as collateral for protected perps, and only the stable can be deposited. So it's clearer what's the outcomes for
Nice.
users.
Just like that.
So these are
So
like step-by-step things which users are telling us, we are considering, and then we implement. So it's like a you say, we consider, we implement kind of.
so you just need to get enough people to ask for something and
Yeah,
then you
if you
guys
want something, just scream on the Discord and it will happen. Get enough people to
nice.
scream on it. Yeah, you
So
get it.
yeah, but it's interesting that you mentioned removing the E for deposits and only taking stables because I was actually wondering if you guys would do like the cross what's the word, like if I could maybe I could deposit
Oh,
E but
cross margin.
yeah, like
Cross
I
margin, you
can
mean.
short up
Um,
instead, yeah, something like
so
that.
so right now, that's a very good point. I think cross margining is definitely a holy grail. But I think even on Deribit, you might not be able to cross margin in the early days of Deribit. So right now, I think the main thing about us is progressively we might be able to get there, and we definitely know that that is a very capital efficient idea. But for now, in the next 3 months or so, it will not be a major feature that we prioritize yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think cross margining becomes more and more relevant as more and more TVL happens, anyways. So right now we need to create the features to help us boost TVL and create the good experience for us when we are sub 10 million TVL. I think when we cross 10 million, then we start to become a major debt because one thing about good entry is that we're tracking the DeFi Llama rankings very tightly because that shows us where we need to go, right? And community members can know what does it mean to be successful. So if you look at DeFi Llama and you look at the derivatives section, I'm pulling it out right now. We look at the DeFi Llama derivatives section. Actually, good entry is really a world-class top 50 project. We are ranked 47, and our numbers is the only one that is green out of all top 50
Mm-hmm.
right now in terms of growth. And then when we look at Arbitrum for derivatives TVL ranking, good entries top 15 in the world for Arbitrum. If for us to go to top 10, it's not impossible because top 10 is 2.1 million. So imagine if we look at it, how to go to top 5 of or top 10 in Arbitrum is just getting 5 million or more already going to top 10. If we want to get into Binance, we look at the reference of Gains Network. Gains Network is about 50 plus million TBL. That's Binance, right? So that's a couple hundred million FDV. So like, actually it's not impossible for us to build a multi-million dollar project together as long as we have a product market fit and we have clear TBL targets as a team and our community.
Nice.
So that
And
makes it clear how to look at the project.
yeah, and you guys are like only in beta testing right now, right? You guys haven't even launched actually
We're
launched
not
yet, yeah.
even like really aggressively pushing yet, right? I mean, the way to push is when your security is secure, right? So I mean, we have two pillars. One is security and one is stability. So security means our code is safe, right? Funds are safe, people can come. The second thing is the experience is stable. So I think Moose, you have been an early user, you will realize that sometimes we update one button, another button will break. It's a very normal thing when your
Yeah.
product is shipped, some parts not that great. But when we want to really be production ready, we have a second DApp right now in beta testing. That is likely to never break. So that is much elegant, it's much more beautiful, understood. We understand what the users want. We battle test things more stably. So when these two things appear, I think in the next 2-3 weeks in the month of August, we will be much better positioned to scale to the 5-10 million mark, and that's when we start to TGE.
Awesome, nice. Really like that, and I really like the security and stability that you are focused on, man. I think it's really important. It's really nice that you guys are focusing about this. It's pretty rare, I would say, in the space, I guess.
I wouldn't say it's rare, lah. I think it's just more like when do people prioritize this, right? Because oftentimes, as I said, most teams take the first approach of I am GigaBrain, let me show you what you should do. So they will launch a fully stable product, but then when they launch it, it's obviously they think it's stable, but it's not broken. It always happens like that. Even teams that launch 1 year later is always broken because the best place to test is on mainnet. A lot of teams do like weird beta testing on testnet, but you can never know what happens unless you use real money, right? It's like I don't know how people train their trading skills on fake money, but once they use real money, it's always totally different because there's
Yeah.
emotions, there is different market movements, so on and so forth, like way more different factors that can complicate this experience. So we have always skipped this testnet nonsense, and we have decided to just be like, if we launch mainnet and let's get things done, and the community reciprocates, right? So I am very surprised how well community is willing to support us, test things. I think we're truly blessed as a team.
Yeah, I think users are a lot of degens in the space, right? Just take my money, right? You can make, as long as you can earn them money, they can make money. They'll be like, take my money, go ahead. All right, and right now you guys are back to your product, right? You guys have 4 pairs. Would you be expecting to launch with the same 4 pairs, or could you expect how many pairs could we expect at launch instead?
Like our beta version is just a better improved version of our alpha front end. So obviously these 4 will maintain, but I think definitely we want to be a partner, right, to many other teams whereby we look like a liquidity hub. So what it means
Nice.
by that is previously let's say I'm a big top 20 token or top 40 token, I have no derivatives markets for my project. You can come on the good entry and provide TVL, and suddenly you have a derivatives market. Yay. People can trade against you to access options. And that creates a lot of trading volume for the product. So that's good, right? There are some L2 projects, I can't name them, but their token, some people call it comatose. Multi-billion dollar, but there's no action. Because you can only trade spot. So, you cannot leverage, you cannot degen, right? So the thing that fuels the degen nature is all about options. So, we provide this kind of degen capability to new teams. So, hopefully we will see much more pairs coming on as we portray ourselves as a liquidity hub. I think the second thing is you know, growing our range of products, inviting new teams to come on. Because once we open source, people can build on us, right? It'll be like, how we think about it is like GMX, they have Rage Trade built on them before. So, if we can start having this as we go along, I think that will be a very good thing, because innovation is about building on top of each other in DeFi. You don't need to ask for permission, just do it. So I think these are good things that we're looking forward to as we scale. But that is like the vision lah, to get to.
Awesome. And really looking forward to it as well. So you guys are on Arbitrum right now. Is there any reason why you chose Arbitrum instead of like any other layer twos or like alt L1s?
I think DeFi Llama is a very good place to look at. I mean, Arbitrum has one of the most active chains in terms of activity. So this made it more discoverable, even though it's been difficult to get a lot of support. Sometimes there's a lot of noise right now, but it's still a top 4 chain, right? So in terms of TVL, it's 1.6 billion. It's a lot bigger than OP at 600 million. So being an Arbitrum is very important at the start, but we see that the space is a multi-chain world, so we're definitely looking at other chains as well. I think most notably we are looking at ZK because there is a role in the ZK space, and ZK EVM, has an incredible ecosystem team, and I think things are just getting started for Polygon. So with their new POL token, right? So likely they can have another Odyssey kind of program like Arbitrum to bring in TVL. So I think that's good, and there's a lot of Matic in the space. So as long as that Matic has a home, right? You go from Polygon, which is 800 million, and it goes into its ZK space. That is definitely a very exciting thing, right? So we are definitely very interested in the ZK narratives. But apart from ZK EVM, of course, there's also like the others like ZK Sync, Manta, so on. So definitely keeping a look, but we at Good Entry don't get ahead of ourselves. I think the main thing we always look at is how do we prove ourselves on one chain first? Because if you cannot prove yourself on one chain, what makes you think that shifting around is going to get you anywhere? Like it's a common saying of try to catch two rabbits, you catch none. It's better to have a bit of focus to build some momentum on one chain before looking at other chains. And if you do go on another chain, being very clear that there is likely to be very strong momentum on that chain. So that has been how we look at things.
I like how you keep emphasizing on the slow and steady part where you guys want to take one step at a time, don't be like too over ambitious. And some people will be just throwing out a roadmap, right? They're like, we're going to do this in within a short time span. And I like how you guys are like the completely
Yeah,
opposite
I
where,
mean, I
yeah.
think a lot of teams that throw a roadmap usually that's usually a team that wants to satisfy certain expectations of others, right? Because when you think you see a roadmap, it gives an element of control that you think you know what's happening. It works well for a lot of VCs because they have to defend the story against the IC, right? But when it comes to actual implementation, you have no clue what's going to happen tomorrow. So having a very rigid roadmap actually traps a team from actually responding to the true needs of the community. So one of the biggest advantages we have at Good Entry is being no VC project. Right? That means that we can do what we need to do to satisfy the needs of our users first. Because our users are also ourselves, our friends, our KOLs. So it's about creating this good energy around everyone and using that to propel the entire project forward.
Nice. So it gives you a lot of leeway to change your direction if you need to, or like change a little bit of order, right? The sequence of events as well if you really need to.
Exactly. I think it's more like how to say. I mean, I like to climb mountains. So like I was recently in Chambly in France and climbed from 2,700 meters to 3,700 meters. You
Nice.
know, that's where altitude sickness comes in, right? And you have to climb on rocks and so on. One thing that you realize when you climb a mountain is anything you think is all a bit too much. The only thing you need to think about when you do very difficult things is you just need to put the next foot forward. You do not know you'll get the summit because when I went this round at the summit, actually there was a bit of an accident whereby the rocks started falling. So some people
Oh.
couldn't reach the summit because the rocks were like literally rolling down on people. And it's a bit dangerous. So does it mean you're going to be upset that you missed the summit? No, you just look at the next mountain and you take the next mountain lah. So the when you have less oxygen and you have a lot of things happening, like a lot of altitude, cold, and you have all these things, it's very similar to how we build good DeFi products, whereby there's a lot of factors coming in. You cannot afford to divert any attention away apart from just moving one more step forward. So this is like our good philosophy, right? Whereby we're just one step at a time. It's not slow and steady because we're making progress, but it's more of being living in the now rather than living in the present, living in the future, whereby we dream of some obscure roadmap, or we live in the past, whereby we think, oh, we did well for this TVL growth. It's likely to happen forever. No, right? We just live in the now. We don't take anything for granted, and we realize that the conditions are actually not easy, but we will keep moving forward in a good way.
Totally love it. I love how you explain it, man. And now let's talk a little bit about your token, because from what I'm aware of, right? So users right now, they can kind of earn the good points, which I believe will be in exchange for tokens in future, right? Like by depositing to vaults or being
Yeah.
active on Discord. And I was looking at your docs and I actually couldn't find much information about what the token is going to be about. So could you share a little bit more about that?
So I think in terms of our token, we are just a pre-VC project or no VC project. So what happens is that at TG there will be this airdrop, right? Some of it will be unlocked, some of it will not be unlocked, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it, lah. There's nothing very complex about our token.
No, like are you gonna be something like GMX, for example, where you're gonna have revenue
Oh,
share
the
or
model. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think definitely we will be adopting similar things like GMX, like ES token models.
Mm-hmm.
That is still in the works, and yeah, we'll be looking at how that behaves. But I think what is different is not just looking at just token revenue share models, right, but also incentivization models. So we approach is with a seasonality approach.
Ooh.
So like to liquidity incentives, we push it in terms of season. So we budget percentages of the tokens
Mm-hmm.
to be pushed out and distributed per season. So we can always do different things rather than saying, okay, forever this is the rate. Sometimes we might want to adjust the protocol objectives and we will incentivize other things, right? So we approach a seasonality approach. So like one thing could be like, the first season is incentivizing all the vaults, the
Mm-hmm.
Discord activities, the Twitter activities, so on and so forth, right? But maybe as the project matures, we might not need to incentivize the vaults as much. So we can bias towards the community incentives. We can bias towards more Discord activity because more marketing is better to drive more users if the product has really high usability, right? So these are like what we mean by allocating the assets of the tokens the best way to generate the maximal good for the community and the project.
Nice. And I think this kind of answers all my questions I have about Good Entry as a project. And I would actually like to ask you a little bit more about what you guys are facing right now as a team and you as a co-founder, right? So could you share with us what is the greatest challenge that yourself or your team Good Entry is facing right now, and how you guys are going to overcome that?
I think at every phase of the project, we have different challenges, right? So when we first started, we're compared with other projects. Like, oh, they have the concept first. When are you doing this? But after we launch our product ahead of them, then they start to stop asking this question. So that was the first phase.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now we're at the phase whereby can you go faster? So the
Nice.
biggest challenge is ecosystem teams calling us and say, can you launch on our platform and we will help you? And then the answer to them is, I can't because I need to prioritize these things first, right? Like security and stability, that is our thing. So we're willing to trade that reckless speed for control
Mm-hmm.
actions that we know need to happen. So take climbing a mountain. I can climb the mountain with my running shoes. But if I reach the snow and I do not have crampons, which is like basically these claw-like things to bite on the snow,
Mm-hmm.
I won't be able to climb to the tippy top. So for right now, we are taking our time to wear the harness, put on the crampons in the back, so that as we ascend, we will have the equipment to do so confidently, right? So managing the pacing and the storytelling of people who want us to go quicker, but we know we shouldn't. No, that is our current challenge. But I think every day we're moving towards our goal to launch a secure and stable product. Our beta product is out, it's being tested by Discord users right now. And our code arena, is running, it's public, people can look at it. So, we're just moving to that. And I would say that very, very soon, these things are better tested and we can move forward. So, yeah, looking forward to that day.
Nice. And the next question, I think you would answer about like you're gonna tell me you're not sure yet, right? You're gonna take one step at a time, but just want to pose this question out to you. How do you envision good entry to be in the long-term future when you have taken your small steps, and what is the kind of end goal look like?
Yeah, so I think we mentioned this earlier is our summit to us, right, is we are a true liquidity hub for
Mm-hmm.
derivatives in DeFi, right? Whereby any token team can come and create their own derivatives market with a full suite of derivatives products for people to trade with, like think of iron condors and spreads, so on and so forth. Um, and yeah, basically be a true degen in the real degen platform, which is currently not available anywhere in the world. So I think this is something that we want to do, and every day we're getting closer to that.
Awesome. And actually, that wraps up all my questions I have for you. Before we go, is there anything that you want to touch on that maybe you haven't touched about yet?
Well, if you're listening, I hope you give our DApp a try and let us know your thoughts on Discord. Other than that, I'm really thankful for the good work that Moose has done, and look forward to see you at 2049. Right?
Nice. Thank you so much again, June. It's been really nice to have you on and hear you answer all the questions and share with us more about good entry. And of course, about your mentality and how you are facing this as you're trying to scale the project. I think it's really nice to hear all this coming from you. So thank you so much for your time, man. Do check out Good Entry if this is something that you find interesting. All their links can be found in the description down below. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Moose Meets. I hope you enjoyed learning more about them as much as I did. Let me know which other projects you would like to learn more about in the comments down below. As usual, do remember to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the pod. We will see you in the next episode.